Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai Stock Market Live. I will be joined by George in a few moments from a remote location today. He's actually in Las Vegas, I believe, for the CES conference. So a bit of a different setup today, but he'll be joining in just a moment. Hopefully his Wi-Fi and connection is good on the road because we have a lot of great topics to talk about today. It seems like the volatility in the market recently has been much higher. So I want to talk about why we've been seeing the volatile market. What are kind of the causes for it? Can we read anything from it, like future predictions of going forward in 2025? And maybe if the bond yields, which we just see increasing over the last days, weeks, months, has something to do with it. A lot of people are now saying that the 10-year yield, they expect to cross 5% this year. So if that happens, what will it mean for stocks? Then, if you're a regular viewer of the stream, you've probably heard us talk about IonQ, RGTI, QUBT, and a lot of the quantum computing stocks that have rallied so tremendously over the past several months. Well, Jensen Huang put an end to those stocks rallies. They're down insane amounts today, like as high as 50% on some cases, because he said that technology is still 15 to 30 years away. So is he correct? It's funny. We have a short video on our YouTube channel from about a year ago where we were talking about uh, if quantum computing ever became a reality, that would be a bad sign for NVIDIA, and their stock would not react well to that news. So is Jensen Huang just kind of, politicking here a bit and saying that, yeah, helping out NVIDIA stock by saying quantum's not here yet? I don't know, but we'll get into all of those topics. Then we have GME, the stock that will just never go away, and it now has a net option sentiment in Prospero of 99. So it's one of the highest readings in the of all the stocks in our app. Uh, is a meme stock rally. I don't know what level we're on, 3.0, 4.0, but whatever round coming back, and is GameStop looking good as an investment? Even though we are in a volatile market, maybe that's just the kind of recipe that GME needs. Another stock which has just not caught its footing and seems to be unloved, even though it's in the best area of the market, you would think, being AI, is AMD. They got a double downgrade today and a price target drop of almost 50%. So I'll let you know who made that call for AMD. And I actually have a question about when an analyst cuts their target by that much. Is it actually kind of a bad sign on the analyst that they haven't updated their view on a company and need to change it by that much? And we all know the energy sector hasn't been performing well recently, um, but one stock that has, and let me just pull it up and look at its performance in the past year, is CEG. It was up over 107% in the past year, and I believe it had fairly good signals in Prospero. Well, it's down today off of news that they'll be looking to acquire a company. It's actually come back. It was as down as much as 10%. Now it's just down slightly over 5%. But Constellation Energy will be looking to acquire Calpine, which was a private company, for $30 billion. So a pretty big move. They were last sold in 2017. I'll let you know just how much for. You'll have to stick around till then. And last but not least, before we turn it over and do the model portfolio at the very end of the stream today, we are going to talk about Meta and the person that they added to their board of directors, which may surprise you if you haven't heard the news just yet, but a big change in attitude going on within Meta and Mark Zuckerberg seemingly recently. Okay, so I'll take a look at the markets now. And it's funny, I mean, we're going to talk about the volatility in the markets that we're seeing recently, and I'm looking at them now, and the QQQ, the S&P, and the Dow Jones are all within 0.05% of the flat line on the day. So maybe you're wondering what volatile markets, but the QQQ was down, I believe, over 1% at one point on the day. It's kind of fought back, and the Russell is still the laggard of all the indexes. They're all fighting back to go green throughout the day, though, so we'll see how it closes off. I want to take a look at the QQQ and the SPY net options sentiment in Prospero quickly. Okay, so the QQQ is at 38. So we're seeing the time series graph in Prospero beginning to uptrend, but it has made now three lower highs recently. So maybe that's not a great sign of things to come. We will find out. And then we have the SPY back down at lows. It's at 5 right now. So single digits for the SPY. Its recent high was 40, and it's given all that back and is now, back at the bottom. So it looks like we're back into a similar situation we were, I believe, most of last week and maybe in the week before, where the SPY was way below the QQQ and was looking like people were hedging their bets using the SPY. I see we have 84 people that have tuned into the stream so far. Welcome, everyone. If you have any questions that you want to comment right now that you want us to address when George gets in here, feel free to type them up and send them in right now. We will be getting to the topics shortly. It's been good to see that on YouTube, we've been getting a little bit more views, crossing the century mark on all of our most recent streams. So thank you for everybody who watches and likes on YouTube, on Twitter or X as well. Good to see that people are liking the stream. Okay. What I'm going to do now is pull up the short-term bull list in Prospero and take you through some of the stocks that we are currently seeing. I actually want to see if GME is still up there too, because it was this morning, and we're going to talk about it on the stream later today. So let me see. Okay, so we have Snowflake at the top, then Dell, then GME. And GME net option sentiment has actually gone to 100 now. So it is firmly at the top of our signals. That is very interesting. I'm wondering, does GME have any catalyst coming up for it soon? What would make people so bullish on it? Let me try to pull up GME right now. So it's definitely not earnings. Those are not until March 25th. I wonder what kind of news is brewing. As we all know, if you've been a user of the Prospero signals for any longer period of time, our signals are sometimes ahead of news events that happen in the markets, and it looks like that could be going on for GME. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream.
Sorry, I was working on the shot. Can you see my face very much? To me, it looks pretty dark.
It is pretty dark, but I guess we're gonna have to just go with it, right?
Yeah, I don't think we'll be making any shorts out of this one. If you're tuning in, I don't think we're gonna send this out. If you're here, you're here. But this probably is not gonna go much farther than this audience. But thanks for coming. If you're here, apologize. I'm at CES in Las Vegas, so I think I'm making do as well as I can.
I believe you just got there yesterday, so I don't know if you've gotten to like shake anybody's hands or have a talk with Jensen Wong. I believe he's there. How's it going so far?
No, I
Most of the
mean,
events
Jensen
today?
and I only hang out outside of CES. We've both got busy schedules here.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna get into him because he made some comments yesterday that are moving some stocks quite a bit today. But what I want to start at is the volatility that we're seeing in the markets recently. And it's funny bringing this up today. I mean, it has been volatile, but now that all of the major indexes are basically back to almost a flat line. So not the most volatile day, but it seems like the market, and especially some of the smaller stocks that have moved a lot, are making like 10% moves up or down with a much more regularity recently. Have you noticed that as well? And Are you reading into that at all? Can we learn anything from that action that we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at something like Coinbase, um, it's pretty crazy how much it's swinging back and forth. Like I think it's I mean today it's been a little more stable, but I think it was up like 8% and then down 8%, like with no real news change, right? So yeah, I don't think people I think the market's being tested, right? Right now. Whether basically there's support after, some down days, or it's ready to run again. And we see net option sentiment all over the place. I think, some people commenting on our Discord, basically like they have whiplash. So, yeah, it's a lot right now, and hard to read. But as always, we're doing our best to, manage the risk and get through it.
And we got some comments. Mario, does Prospero work at the tables? Bob Safford, thank goodness I wasn't in quantum stocks this week. We're about to get into that, Bob. But then also from Taco Dreams, are there any plans to launch a web version of the Prospero app so I don't have to rely on mobile every time I make a trade on my computer?
Yeah, I mean, we've shared this on our Discord. Um, we have a design for a web app. It's just, we have some features that we really want to roll out in the app first. But yeah, within the next year or two, we'll have a web app.
And I see Blake Chrisman's comment, but we will get to that in one moment. What I want to talk about first is bond yields, the most interesting and exciting topic I'm sure our chat wants to hear about. But so bond yields have been increasing while the market has kind of, I mean, I guess recently it's kind of given up some strength, but we're still very close to all-time highs. And from everything I know, the higher the bond yields go, the more pressure it puts on stocks. I believe Warren Buffett has even said that bond yields work like gravity to stocks, like gravity does on the Apple. Are you getting nervous? The 10-year yield is approaching 5%. I think a lot of people are saying that they expect it to maybe reach that level this year. If that were to happen, would that be pretty bearish for the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think that where yields are going right now, um, is, obviously when in uncertain times, you're going to see this behavior a lot of the time. So I think, right now, the main thing that we really have to get a lot of clarity on, is, if what's going to happen with Trump policy, and we keep saying this, and I think we have to have answers about the SEC. We have to have answers about the Fed, because if there's a change at the Fed, that's going to be an even bigger impact. But right now, I think it's the uncertainty that's driving that up. And obviously in the, that's why, riskier assets like equities are also taking a hit, or seeing a lot of uncertainty, or seeing a lot of volatility. Because I think people are starting to get spooked. And I think they're starting to get spooked because the valuations are just so high. And if everything doesn't go exactly according to plan in terms of, Trump, uh, releasing policies and people that are really going to support the stock market, I think that's where you're getting the fear, and people want to park things in other places, more than I think maybe they expected. It's one of those things where I think this uncertainty is spreading, and that's why we're seeing it on a day-to-day basis. I think everybody's confused. A lot of people are getting mixed messages.
And speaking of high valuations, one of the areas of the market we've been covering a lot because the stocks have had insane rallies until today is the quantum computing stocks. I think Google's Willow chip announcement really gave this rally more juice and sent these stocks higher than they probably should have been. But Jensen Huang at CES yesterday was asked about quantum, and he said that the technology of quantum computing won't be impactful for 15 to 30 years, with 20 years, he said, probably likely. This sent those stocks as much as 50% lower today. So, um, after his comments, how do you view this space? I know INQ has been something we were playing, and it looked good in our signal. So, are those comments like the death of this rally for now, or do you think these stocks can prove themselves after this recent drop?
I mean, I've been researching it more, And I mean, there's a lot of layers here, but first off, I've been researching it more, and quantum computing, uh, an interesting part about it are the qubits. You actually have to do some low-level programming on them. So basically, you have to customize your code to work with qubits. Um, and that's not an easy task to do. Like right now, IBM, if you have some ideas for it, I think they've open sourced, or not open source, they've made their quantum computer available for people to run test code. I think they're doing that because they don't really have answers about how to use it efficiently. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. All that being said, and I know a lot of people have like, come and pointed to our shorts about how like, oh, NVIDIA's making quantum computing. So, you shouldn't say that quantum computing is bad for NVIDIA. But if you look at it like this, right? Right now in the current computing world, we know NVIDIA is, dominant. Like they control almost all of the high performance, the highest performance computing, right? What they do in this new world is an unknown, right? So of course, Jensen Huang is going to put a longer time frame on it because the sooner you talk about it being used, there's no benefit to him. The more that's going to eat into the uncertainty of NVIDIA's dominance, because while they are working on it and while they are the best people at building chips that we've ever seen, right, that doesn't necessarily translate to new tech, right? Everybody thought Intel was the best at building chips for a long time until NVIDIA came along. And that's not a bad analogy to this, where if, it's the equivalent of me saying like, oh, like in back before NVIDIA came out, basically like, oh yeah, Intel's cool, but I really think, GPUs are the real technology. And someone coming on the video and being like, well, Intel makes GPUs too. I think like that's, I know the NVIDIA bulls, get upset. And like, yeah, if I was going to bet on anyone to make, a chip, quantum, whatever, like, yes, NVIDIA is the best bet to innovate on that. But you could have also previously said that about Intel, which I think is the very important point. But I think there's going to be like, this is the ultimate news driven event. I don't think Google's announcement is going to be the last thing that sends those stocks flying, right? All of the quantum computer stocks, or even, an announcement like Qubit had. So yeah, I think it's going to be highly volatile. It's going to be risky. And like, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons we use momentum score, net option sentiment, we were flirting with IonQ a little bit. We got out of it. And, that's why we're comfortable playing with volatile assets because, we have that extra help.
And so I'm so happy you started talking about Jensen Huang and his view of the space as the CEO of NVIDIA. I was going to bring it up anyway because we have a video, like you mentioned, how NVIDIA stock would crumble if quantum computing was released. And it's an old video. It's from March of 2024, but it just started getting a lot of views recently after this news event happened. So you do believe that Jensen Huang could just be, puppeteering the markets with this comments and kind of playing 4D chess and understanding how quantum computing could draw into NVIDIA stock, and could just be
Yeah, you have to
commenting
think about
because
how
of that.
you have to think about how stocks are modeled, right? Right now, NVIDIA is modeled to have dominance in compute. And we just don't know enough about quantum computing to know if NVIDIA will be dominant in quantum computing. So it's very easy math there on why, Jensen wouldn't want it. And I think that, the big thing there is just, is just what we're talking about. And I always think it's kind of funny. Like when I was making that video or when I was talking about it, I was talking about if quantum computing, like a new player came in, NVIDIA stock would tank. Obviously, if NVIDIA was the leader in quantum computing, like again, that's not going to tank their stock, right? I would think that's implied, but you never know with these, with these people coming in that want to make the corrections. But that all being said, that's just the difference, right? Right now, NVIDIA gets modeled as having, pretty much all of the high performance compute space, especially in the data, like in the data centers. I think it's like a crazy number that's close to 100%. They are the name in that high performance computing. So any new paradigm is going to hurt them. I'm sorry for all the, and all the NVIDIA fan people, like it's going to hurt them in theory until they've proven, which they very much haven't yet, that they will be the dominant quantum computing chip as well. They're not going to get treated with the same, valuation boost. Right now, even just the existence of, the kind of performance for like qubit, IonQ, etc., that tells you that the market isn't modeling them as the dominant force in compute forever. And I think that's a really important point in why Jensen Huang wouldn't want to do this. Wouldn't
And
want to
by
like
the
say, hey, it's going to be here tomorrow, right? Because if NVIDIA invents it in like 5 years, no skin off his back, you could be like, oh, I've actually impressed myself and we did it faster, whereas pouring cold water on this, obviously, I don't think it's any coincidence that, I mean, a lot of stocks had a tough day yesterday, but NVIDIA had a really good, a really good Monday as this was being talked about. So I think that's an important point. But like, yeah, I think people always have to separate the idea of like, yes, Jensen Huang is very smart. He is, I think a very authentic person too, but you never have to. A CEO still has a job too, and their number one job is to protect the stock price. And him being like, oh yeah, quantum computing is going to be here on the early end of what his forecast might be. There is literally like zero benefit to him doing that.
And it's funny, the short that's going to go out across our socials later today is you giving advice to the person who commented asking for what they should do with their SoundHound AI position, which is down over 16% today. Looks like it was, I guess, trading in the quantum computing type of rally. But also, wouldn't it be really telling if NVIDIA were to acquire one of these companies that have now made a large move lower at any point really in 2025? Maybe they were just trying to position so that they could, get one of these companies at a lower price.
I don't think that's the thing. I like, especially after like doing the research that I've done, I don't think we know enough about quantum computing yet for them to, say like, would I want IonQ or qubit, or like even just like how much better is it's so frontier. I think they probably even have a hard time, especially like evaluating from afar, how much better the other tech was than theirs. And keep in mind, you do due diligence if they say, hey, we want to acquire you. But if NVIDIA approached IonQ and was like, hey, we want to see how your tech works so we can evaluate if we want to acquire you, like, I'm not really sure that IonQ would say, hey, yeah, take a look at exactly how our tech works. So I think you have that other barrier, and especially in frontier tech, I always think that's a huge problem. That's why you kind of see these acquisitions take place a lot of the times later on in the cycle, right? Because at that time, what you're really acquiring is just as much whatever customer base one of the upstarts has as much as their tech.
And so one stock I want to bring up also today, which is looking good, at least in net option sentiment in Prospero. I actually just checked and it's at 100 now, is GME GameStop. Uh, the strength in this stock is amazing to me. It hit a low of around $10 last year in April, and it had that other wave where it went crazy high and instantly dropped back down in about May and June of 2024. And since then, it's kind of just crept higher and higher, and now we're seeing 100 net options sentiment in Prospero. So, what do you think of GameStop? Can we make any sense of the trading and the action in this company?
I mean, it's hard, but one of those things where like I always use all 10 signals, right? And I actually almost added GameStop yesterday, but then I looked and saw the 30 profitability and 15 growth. And I'm just like, I don't have I don't have the stomach for that. And that's like, we're not really following the principles that we profess if we do that. I mean, I still might add it if the momentum, like sometimes we can go a little lower. The momentum in terms of like something like technical flow is not there yet where I'd really want to add it. But, I've been thinking about it, that Roaring Kitty event, like when a stock is driven so much by like, meme stock craziness and retail rally, and institutions now are well versed in following retail in these, like, I don't know. It's just very, very interesting to think of the idea that, whatever announcement GameStop or Roaring Kitty or whatever makes tomorrow would send the stock flying. So, I'm thinking about it. But then on the other side of no investment, if no announcement comes tomorrow, right, that might really send it the other way. So that's tough.
Yeah, it definitely could be a sell the news if the market's disappointing. But just to challenge you on the one thing you said about profitability and I think growth, I don't know if there's any stock in the market that comes to my mind where like those signals, the investor base care the least about it. It seems like it would be GME because it doesn't seem to trade off its like business. So I don't know. Do you kind of agree with me there where it's like seems like the stock trades based on the energy and the passion of the investors? I mean, I don't know how you quantify that, but like,
Yeah, but
um,
I'm talking about my principles, and my principles of like looking at certain like, profitability and growth, like whatever is just, it's, it's hard. Like even like Wix is doing well today. And I kind of wanted to add Wix, but at the end of the day, like I didn't add anything because like I think AppLovin is scaring me a little bit with its momentum, and I couldn't wrap my head around not adding AppLovin above Wix when AppLovin has like a 30-point higher in upside. So,
mhm.
sometimes I just struggle with, momentum with existing principles. And, it's kind of those two things that I said right there, where it's like, if the news doesn't come, there's not a big enough business to support that disappointment. And, it's more likely than not than that's something, people are clearly like itching for like that news and want to get in on it. But I do have a hard time. um I might end up adding it. I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm like talking myself into it, where it's just like, if he's promising, like that's the one thing that's hard with this, right? Because he did a 1/9 date, right? Does the 1/9 date mean there's some kind of big GameStop announcement coming, or does it mean there's a big announcement coming from him? Because if it's a big announcement coming from him, there's no way the stock doesn't fly. He's going to deliver. He's gotten people up. But if he's just, kind of reading the tea leaves on something that like, GameStop might announce or the SEC might announce or anything like that, um, he doesn't really have control of that. And he might have like a lot of inside information, a lot of sources, but at the same time, he doesn't really have control of it. And also with these meme stocks, I'm also just a little, I've seen like more of these dates come and go with nothing than actual news, and these things like fizzling a lot. And I've been through the ringer um on that. So yeah, that's what makes it tough. I'm like I said, I'm sort of like, this run up is hard to ignore. I'm kind of talking myself into it a little bit. But I got to think on it more. And the upside on GME has like gone up like crazy too. That's the one thing that's really different. That's kind of like winning me over. But yeah, I don't know. I got to think about it more.
And now with the market being closed tomorrow, I wonder if that changes his plans at all. Because probably when he announced that, he didn't know it'd be closed on that date. So maybe he'll wait till the 10th, or maybe we'll just see GME either gap up or down when the market opens back up if he still announces it. But we'll
Oh, the
keep our eyes
markets are
peeled on it.
closed tomorrow. I didn't realize that. Well, I mean, I sort of did, but
Jimmy Carter, honoring Jimmy
yeah, all
Carter.
right.
Um, I want to bring up AMD, which received a double downgrade from HSBC. And with this double downgrade, they cut their price target from 200 to 110. So there are a couple questions I want to ask about this topic, but I think first off, with AMD having underperformed for basically this whole AI rally, which you would think would benefit them, do you think Lisa Su and her job as CEO is becoming in question. We've already seen the Intel CEO be fired and a new one replacing him. Do you think her job is at risk right now?
Is their job at risk? It's a good question. I mean, my instinct is no. I just think that it's hard to compete with Nvidia, right? She has a hard job. And, I wouldn't say at the end of the day, I'm kind of looking at AMD's. Yeah, I mean, they're down they're down 17% on the year or on a 1-year timeline. That is actually worse than I thought. Looking at that, like in the last year, AMD stock is down 17%, and Nvidia stock is up 168%. So actually, that's another thing. Always be numbers driven. Looking at that alone, we always say the job of a CEO is, to work on the stock price. And that story is saying that AMD just is not, in the age of AI. I mean, I honestly was a little skeptical. I didn't think it was down 17% in the last year. But the fact that it's like you contrast that with Nvidia over the same time period, and also consider the fact that Nvidia has been on this crazy run for so long too. Yeah, that kind of makes me say to myself that her job might be on the line.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about this is for HSBC and them changing their price target by almost 50% from 200 to 110. That to me is an indictment on a firm, because shouldn't you have seen that your thesis was changing before you needed to change your target by 50%? Like, shouldn't you have updated it along the way? And do you feel the same way as me with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we talk about these analyst things all the time, and it's like you can update your price target there's not like a season, it's not like earnings season where you have to wait. Like you can update your price target like at any time. And to me, like, yeah, it would be one thing if you had like an SMCI situation, right? Where it's like sudden and it's like external to the business kind of and all that stuff. And you're just like, okay, I got to slash it because there was a news event. But there hasn't been this major news event or anything like that. Um, so yeah, I think that that's kind of how I see it as the issue. That it's just like there, this year of down 17% has been coming. And to me, if you can't even break that into two, like maybe one down 25% and then another one, like you're just sleeping on your job.
Yeah. Um, so I wanted to bring up this energy stock that was making a new announcement today. It is CEG, Constellation Energy. I think the energy has been one of the more bearish sectors that we've been tracking, but this stock has kind of broken the trend. It's up over 100% in the past year, but it went down slightly today on their news that they are going to be buying Calpine in a $30 billion deal. Calpine is a private company that was last acquired in 2017 for 17 billion. So pretty good growth from in the past 7 years, 17 billion to 30 billion. For anybody who's newer to the stream and hasn't heard us talk about, a stock moving down on the announcement of an acquisition, maybe we could just refresh that how you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, that really depends on a few things, right? It depends on the perception of the price paid by the company. And a lot of the time that's going to be momentum because let's be honest, right? The average retail investor doesn't really have an opinion on if there's a good price of an acquisition of like, one energy company into the other. So a lot of the time they're going to look to, movement of the stock around the announcement. And then there's going to be, kind of added momentum around that. Then, what is being acquired is also super important. Like, for example, like we were talking about IonQ and NVIDIA, right? Some might say if they did end up paying a lot for that, some might be concerned with NVIDIA's own teams ability to build out this new frontier tech. And you could say, well, if they had to like acquire IonQ because they were doing better, maybe that's a concern for their ability to manage this new technology versus the old one, right? And that might drive it down. But also depending on that, you could have people read it and say, oh, actually, I think it's smart. They maybe had a hole in their team. They can acquire this really talented team. And a lot of that is just really hard because there's all these perceptions, right? There's a perception of if the price was paid well. There's a perception of how it reflects on the existing technology, like we're talking about. And then there's the thing that where you could say like, oh, maybe it's smart that they saw this hole and they plugged it. But all of that is, a lot of that right there is going to be like around the perception of if the hole is plugged, right? Like let's say they acquired IonQ, but a lot of people still thought that Qubit, was the better technology, right? Or some other. Like then, all of a sudden the price is not going to be, whatever price is paid is not going to be viewed as good because you're not necessarily paying a high price to get the market leader, right? I think, for example, when, Facebook paid $1 billion to buy Instagram, right? That was viewed as a pretty high price for the business at the time. But that being said, they had such, especially at the time, Instagram had such a solid user base and solid market that even if, Meta wasn't good in the areas that, Instagram were, it ultimately was viewed as an excellent, whole plug supporting technology, etc. So there's a lot of variables there, but at the end of the day, it can be, very fickle. And as a result, a lot of the times I've seen so many times where you see a stock go up around an acquisition and then have the bottom fall out of it because institutions actually, some of the ones that are in the stock don't actually like the price paid, but they think if they boost the stock up, they can get like one more little jolt of profit, because people will think that it was the perception will be that a good price before they sell their whole position.
Interesting stuff there. And I have one more topic to talk about today before we turn it over to the model portfolio update. But just a big thank you to everybody tuning into the stream today. Everybody who's here right now is a real diehard Prospero viewer. So thank you guys for being here. The story that I want to bring up is that Meta will be adding an interesting figure to their board of directors. Dana White has actually been announced that he will be joining the board, which I think, we've given Elon Musk credit for his ability to I don't know the term you use, but like manipulate the perception around his stocks and be able to kind of work the board well. I think Mark Zuckerberg is kind of doing a good job at spinning the perception of how Meta is viewed. He released a video yesterday kind of on the whole free speech thing, but with the change of administration and kind of the conflict that Meta might have had, it seems like that risk is going away. So uh, does it seem to you like Mark Zuckerberg is like up to the challenge and doing a good job leading Meta into the next phase?
I think Dana White. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I thought so. I just wanted to confirm. Dana White is viewed as like a Trump ally, right? So I think not only did you get that announcement, but you also got the announcement that they were no longer doing like fact checking and they were doing like community, like kind of a community thing like what X is doing, right? So I think you see basically, and I think this is like I'm hearing more and more like I think you used to have a much bigger divide where like a lot of the coasts were, Democrat and then the middle of the country more were Republican. But I'd say this election especially, like, and I think especially the way it was handled by the Democrats, I think you're getting more and more people saying like, well, I just think Trump is going to be better for business. So, and like, especially the way the Democrats handled this, like I think they're losing more and more of their shine. And I think you have more and more like people on the coasts saying like, hey, like, I don't think like where it used to be like, oh, if you're a Republican on the coast, you don't care about other people. Like I'd say like a lot of people have shifted, kind of come out of the woodworks and just say, you know what? I don't think any of these people care about other people. And so you might as well pick the party that is going to be better for business. And I'm hearing more and more of that. So I think where Meta fits into this is, I think, kind of Zuckerberg felt a lot of previous pressure to be, skew more liberal, because that's, what that was like the only option, especially in the Bay Area and on the coast. But I think now, as it trickles in, where there's more and more people coming out and just being like, you know what, I don't think the Democrats have handled this so well, and I'd rather have my wallet be a little bigger. I think now we see more, this is Zuckerberg kind of coming more, like, I'd say, as an organization, coming more over to the, to neutral, where like everybody knows they weren't really neutral before. So yeah, I think you see a lot, like in Trump's first administration. I think, you wouldn't see this, but I think the country is getting more and more like sick of how the Democrats do things. And I think that like part of that is how the Democrats message people, message things to people. But I think part of it is just that like the Republicans are evolving more. If you think about where they were 20 years ago to where they are now, the Democrats like are pretty much like exactly the same as they were 20 years ago. And for some people, there's some people that will say like, oh, well, I don't like the direction that the Democrats are going. I mean, sorry, the Republicans are going. So the fact that they're evolving is bad. But I think there are a lot of voters that, kind of see stagnation of any kind and just prefer change, because in their lives, like Democrat, Republican, their lives have not gotten any better. And, there's vehement disagreement on this, but there's a lot of people in this country that think Trump offers hope of change.
Yeah, I just think it's fascinating because, like, when Meta stock was tanking and the whole metaverse investment and dollars that they were spending into it, seemed like Zuckerberg was being blamed. And I mean, as he should, he's the CEO of the company. But now that it's kind of turned around, he's also getting the credit. So, or I just want to give him the credit. So, both sides of the story there. But we can spin over to the model portfolio now, and I'm sure there's some major changes. Let me check in on the QQQ and SPY net option sentiment as we're getting that ready. Still seeing small caps in the Russell being the lagging index. I guess that'll just be a forever story.
I'm closing down my my tab that says Dana White Republican ?
Okay, so the QQQ is at 23 currently.
Wow. That's been all over the place today. I saw it above 40.
And the SPY is at 5. So no end to the volatility in sight. Bob Safford, making money is good for everybody. Agreed, Bob.
Okay. Oh, I didn't start sharing yet. I don't know why. I think it's my camera. I should have brought my better camera. I was not serious enough about this live stream. If I'm gonna spend my day doing it, I should be more serious. Okay.
Live update QQQ now says 36.
We're going to change the title now.
That's how volatile it is. The titles aren't even safe.
Yeah,
In
I
this
can't
market.
even yeah, I mean, 37 and 23 is a big difference. Like if you think about all the intense like institutional capital that's like changing hands, like to change that option sentiment that much, like
Looks like today small caps are the standouts being targeted, but on the 1 week we see a bend towards growth and large cap growth on the 1 month. But back to growth on the 3 month. This is why we're staying in large cap growth, because when you zoom out, this is staying the most consistent. But we are definitely feeling some pain. We added PEN midday because of this healthcare trend, which might be seen as value with how bad it was hammered previously. And on the downside, utilities have been getting hurt, so we will look to target bears there.
oh, that is not what I want. God, I hate traveling and doing this. I've been like traveling so much, it feels like on these. Oh, wait, we got to go 25. Stupid travel.
Oh, momentum score is back and good. We weren't using it the past couple, right? That we were doing on
Yep, we're
stream.
back in. Back in the momentum groove. And boy, did we miss it.
I
But one
guess
thing that
that's
I
how
wanted
you.
to like talk over about to the people that subscribe, it's actually going to be the topic um of our newsletter this weekend. You might be saying to yourself like WTF with all of this all of these like moves. But like what we're doing in all of this volatility is something that like we would suggest everyone do, which is lock in gains, right? Like that's the main thing that we've been pursuing. Like we've been exiting a lot of things, sometimes a very quick trigger finger, because like, yeah, that is one of the ways. If there's a lot of volatility and things are changing fast, one of the best things that you can do is lock in gains. I do want some smart cap. Rogue could be an interesting option. I'm just making sure I have all the things I want. Okay. So yeah, apologize for the whiplash, anyone, if it's a little too much, but that's why we're doing that. Like we just like those little gains, as you can see, they add up. Like we've got, if you look at like our investing letter, like we're still having a pretty good start to the year. I would have liked higher. Like I like to get a little bit more of a cushion. But if you look, right, we've got some losses here, right, that are not insignificant. But we've locked in a lot of these smaller gains, and they add up if you make sure to lock them in.
Especially with the time value of money, right? Because it's only been a week this year, so you lock in the
Exactly.
gains for the week.
Good call out, Stephen. This might be a buy low.
D. Curtins said it would love to have some gains to lock in, LOL.
Yeah, I mean, if you've
Nice.
been following the investing, I'm sure you're doing that. Oh, and I think D. Curtin, I think your name is Dan, right? I'm meaning to get back to you. Sorry for the delay. What is going on with United Airlines? I guess. Oh, you know what we're gonna do? We're actually gonna do something that we did yesterday. Bloodbath. I want to see how many we're exiting before I do the addition. I just want to see where the portfolio is, how many we're exiting. Okay, so we have 40 longs. Got a lot of chips, a lot more chips than I would have liked to see. So it looks like all right, it looks like 5 exits here. Maybe. You will lock in that game too. Be careful. Can you tell me if Baba is a win or not?
Baba is a loss.
Can you tell me more about the net option sentiment trend on it?
It's been pretty stable in the mid to high 80s. It's at 87 right now.
Okay.
Bob's asking, since we have a holiday tomorrow, do you think the trading will be light on Friday? The big wigs of Wall Street, will they just take a long weekend?
Yeah, maybe. All right, I'm not gonna get rid of like that. ACHR. I think that's good. I need to get rid of more of these. We gotta swing this more. Okay, I think I'm just gonna add. That lets me know what I'm doing here. No, actually, I'm not gonna do that. Do we have time for this? Not really. Actually, let's just look at time. Okay, that's all we're doing. We're not getting too crazy. Wow, TQQQ, that's not a good sign. Oops. All right, we are gonna grab more of these than usual. Yeah, I think we're gonna get 2x of this. No. Spread it out a little bit. Here we go, loading up. It's like the utilities load up. Damn, I thought this was gonna fit. What's that? God damn it. Okay. That's all we got, folks. Can I do this right? All right, I'm running into another meeting.
All right. Thanks for tuning in,
Bye-bye.
George. Enjoy Las Vegas. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you back Monday.